is Brighid Murphy, and I am a shamanic healer and a teacher. And I have been walking a path of service for as long as I can remember. Even before I started to consciously and intentionally work with the spirits and do healing work, I was in a path of service. I met my shamanic teachers. Hi, Donna. Hi, Ina. I met my shamanic teachers when I was in my early 20s. So it's been a while. It's definitely been a minute. Becky and Crow founded the Church of Earth Healing in Ohio. The Church of Earth Healing is not currently active. One of my teachers has crossed to the other realms, and the other one no longer lives there. But I'm still working with my teacher, Becky. She's actually in this list, or in this group with us. Anyway, what my teachers taught me is how to create and engage in ceremony. One of the most fundamental practices I've ever learned in my life. And ceremony is best learned when you are in it versus hearing about it, because there's a feeling and a sense, hey, Leslie, that you get when you're in ceremony, and through that you understand it. So they taught me ceremony. They also taught me to respect and honor First Nations traditions, not just here in North America, but in South America, in other places other than here. There are practices and traditions that are to be respected, and I learned that from my teachers. They also taught me how to have relationships with the elemental forces. They taught me how to have relationships with spirits, and I've developed that over time, and it's been a huge help to me personally and to the work that I do with other people. My teachers also taught me how to make my own tools, which has been a resource that I've never really found anywhere else. So making my own tools. And then when I was ready, they taught me how to really embrace the shamanic healing work that was already coming through me. And they gave me direct teachings on doing the advanced shamanic healing work. And so that's what I want to share about today. I can go on and on about my teachers. I have a lot of respect for them. I have a 20-year relationship with Becky, who's still here with us, and I value her immensely. And so that's for another time, though. Why I'm here today is because I wanted to talk about key elements to shamanic healing. Shamanic healing is something that I do on behalf of a client, on behalf of community, or on behalf of the planet. And it's a practice that exists all over the globe. And it's engaged in by a variety of First Peoples. Not all First Peoples have shamanic practice or go to the spirits shamanically in the same way. But the practices exists all over, and there are common threads and themes in the techniques that are shared. But the goal of shamanic healing is always the same. It is always the same, no matter where you go, whether you're in Mongolia, you're in South Dakota, you're in South America. And that goal is to restore balance and power. Balance and power. And the way that we do that, and the process that allows that, is there's many ways to explain it, but that's the bottom line, is restoring balance and power. And I can't think of a better time on the planet for us to be doing this work. Because I think that something that we can all agree on is that we need to restore balance and power in ourselves, in our institutions, and in our relationship with the natural world. And so balance and power are achieved through key practices. And I want to talk about a couple of them. And then I'm going to talk about the elements of shamanic healing, because these practices that are shamanic in nature are directly connected to the elements of shamanic healing. The practices are not the same as the shamanic healing. There's a difference. You can have these practices that I'm about to share with you and not be doing shamanic healing. So we'll talk about four of them, four key practices for shamanic peoples. And one is, and these are in no particular order, one is listening to the spirits. listening, which requires asking. It requires approaching. It requires being in receptive mode, listening to the spirits, listening to the natural world, listening to someone's soul. All of that is really important if you want to restore power and balance. It's not what we think is supposed to happen or what we want it to be. It is listening to all of those pieces, the spirits, the natural world, and listening to somebody's soul. And it will talk to you if you listen. Second piece, our second practice is creating a reciprocal relationship with spirit. If you've been around a while, you hear me talk about this frequently. Shamanic practitioners, shamans have a give and a take, an ask and a receive. Reciprocity in relationship with spirit. The third piece, or a third key practice that is established as in conjunction with restoring power and balance, is ceremony. Opening a door to all potential so that spirit can speak. Ceremony is one of the most powerful things that you can learn for yourself. And the fourth practice that is important for restoring power and balance is stepping yourself aside, stepping your thinking mind aside, stepping your linear mind aside, so that you can actually allow spirit to help you, not interfering with the work. And that can sometimes be something that people practice for a long time, not interfering with the work, being truly a conduit. I know many people who do healing work and they really try to take on another person's pain, or they try to imprint what they think a person should do in order to heal. And in shamanic practices, sure, might I have some suggestions for somebody as to what's going to help them? Yeah, but I am clear with the people I'm working with that those are different than what spirit is bringing through. And so stepping aside and allowing spirit to help a person is one of the key practices that restores power and balance. And all of this lays the way, opens the path for a healer to do their work. So these four practices that I just mentioned, listening to the spirits, to somebody's soul, listening to the natural world, creating a reciprocal relationship with spirit, creating ceremony, stepping aside, all of this lays the way for a healer to do their work. And shamanic healing work is not effective unless these pieces are in practice. Something that is distinct about shamanic healing work is that it addresses the spiritual influence of disease. It doesn't just focus on your thoughts. It doesn't just focus on your emotions and how that has contributed. Shamanic healing and seasoned practitioners will just say, don't ever blame a person for their illness. There is no blame in this practice. There's a recognition that there's a spiritual influence that goes beyond here and here when it comes to disease. And it's a shaman or shamanic practitioner's job to open up the gates for that information to come through. And that bigger picture can only be offered by spirit. Healing, and I say this all the time, healing is not done by me. It's done through me and with the spirits. Spirits have the spirits and the spirit world and the helpers in the spirit world, including the ancestors, guides, allies, helpers. They have what I call the bird's eye view. They can zoom out and see everything and then choose what a person needs to hear in that moment and experience from that view of everything. I don't get to see the view of everything, but I have developed a relationship and have enough experience to know that I don't need to see everything. I just need to keep my conduit open and bring through the pieces that that spirit is telling me to bring through. So my job has 5 parts to it. I'm going to just break this down, and then I'm going to move into the key elements of shamanic healing. It's hard for me to just give you a little bit of information because there's so much, and one understanding leads to the next. So far I've talked a little bit about the key practices that help someone to do shamanic healing. Now I'm going to talk about the 5 parts, but my 5 pieces, my job, and then I'm going to talk about the elements of shamanic healing. So first part to my job is to create, and as a shamanic healer, is to create an active, ongoing relationship with the spirits. Been doing that for 20 years. The relationship changes and it grows, and I have complete faith in it. That's the first thing I teach anyone who wants to learn shamanic practices, how to talk to the spirits. And it doesn't happen overnight. It happens much faster than it did 20 years ago, but it's not a quick process. If you don't want to put the time in, this path is not for you. This path is not for somebody who wants a quick fix, quick download, quick psychic hit. That's not what this path is about. Traditional shamans spend a long time training, both under the mentorship of humans and the spirit world. So my first job, the first part of my job is to create an ongoing relationship with spirit. Second is to open a space for spirit to reach me, not just when I'm doing the healing work, but in my everyday life. And you notice, if you've been around a while, if not, you'll see, there's a lot of talk about opening up the space. And you might think, like, why is she doing this? Why are we opening up the space? Because when you open up the space on a regular basis, you create a road, a pathway for spirit to reach you. Third part to my job is to honor the spirits and ask for guidance, and then step out of the way. Fourth part of my job is to deliver the information without over-interpreting or editing. Deliver the information without editing or over-interpreting. I was told a while ago, spirit needs a messenger. Spirit needs a messenger, not someone who falls in love with the messages. And I take that to heart. All sorts of stuff comes through when I'm doing work for people. Mind-blowing things that there's no way that I could make up. And it's clear you can feel spirits in the room. But it's not for me to take some sort of respite in the message or to fall in love with the message. It's my job to move it through. The fifth thing that's my part, the fifth piece of stuff, is to help people to integrate what comes through. I teach them to connect on their own if they're willing. Part of the reason why the work that I do is so expansive now is because I've moved from just helping people to heal to the other piece of healing, which is connecting with spirit on your own. Once you know more, it's impossible to do less. So if anybody's just joining us, say hello. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for watching the replay. This segment of Healers and Healing is all about the 3 key elements of shamanic healing. And I was just talking about the pieces of shamanic practice. And then I talked about my 5 parts that I take on, the 5 things that I do as a shamanic healer. And now I want to share the 3 key elements of shamanic healing. So if you're still with me, good for you. I try to keep these short, and I'm doing a good job at it, at least today. Okay, first key element of shamanic healing. Given that all the things that I just shared are already in place, first element is getting energy to flow, encouraging energy to flow. Mental energy, physical energy, spiritual energy, all kinds of energy, whatever kind of energy you can imagine that you have, we help it to flow through a variety of techniques that I'm not going to go into here because I'm slowly but surely covering them all as I go through these talks. Getting energy to flow, not just in the present, but in the past and the future. Recognizing that all are connected, and sometimes we need to go into the past to get energy to move to affect the present. Might sound complicated, but it actually isn't, because the more you work with your spirits, the more they show you how this works. So first key element is getting energy to flow in all realms, mental, psychic, physical, and across dimensions, past, present, and future. Second key element of shamanic healing is reducing harm reduction, reducing harm. And we do that by a couple ways, but the two main ways are getting rid of intrusive energy. When energies are stuck in the body and need to be removed, they're impeding the flow of energy. So we remove them. Reducing harm by getting rid of intrusive energy, and reducing harm by bringing back fragmented parts. It's not, it's harmful to people to not have all their parts. You can maybe have a little bit of you fragment off, and it's not that big of a deal. And maybe a bit of you needs to fragment off to keep you safe during trauma. Totally get that. But when you have a lot of your parts missing, a lot of your energy missing, that's harmful, and we want to reduce that. So bringing back fragmented parts. Those are the two ways that we reduce harm. The third key element to shamanic healing is introducing help in areas where there wasn't help before. Introducing help in areas there wasn't any help. And so help can be introduced into the present. Help can also be introduced into the past, because this type of healing does not require that we adhere to time. This type of healing does not require that we adhere to time. That's outside of the requirements of shamanic practice. One of the things I talk about, and I'm talking about in the current spiritual tools training, and I talk about this with all of my students, is the concept and the understanding that we can expand time, change our relationship to it, because shamanic healing doesn't require that we adhere to time. So introducing help in areas where there wasn't involves connecting people with spirit through teaching them how to do ceremonies and rituals. It also requires connecting people with spirit through introducing them to their guides and helpers who are waiting. And if you're just joining, you are joining right at like the culmination of all of this sharing about shamanic healing. So feel free to come back and watch the replay so this all makes sense. First thing I talked about were shamanic practices. Second thing I talked about were some of my, the parts to my job as a shamanic healer. And now what I'm talking about is 3 key elements of shamanic healing. First element is getting energy to flow, mental, spiritual, psychic energy, and getting it to flow in the past, the present, and the future. Second key element of shamanic healing is reducing harm by getting rid of intrusive energy and bringing back fragmented parts. The third key element of shamanic healing is introducing help in areas where there wasn't. Help can be introduced into the past as well as introduced into the present, because this type of healing does not require that we adhere to time. So how do we introduce help? Through connecting people with spirit through ceremony, and through connecting people with spirit through introducing them to their guides and their helpers that are waiting. So those are the 3 key elements of shamanic healing. All of this works together, and we don't just sprinkle in a technique or two and it feels good. It doesn't work that way. It's part of a whole practice that you develop over time and that you get confident in over time. Like I said before, traditional shamans train for decades to be able to do what they do, both with the spirits and with their personal teachers. Anybody who steps into shamanic practices when they're not traditional has a similar length of time that they need to commit to. although it doesn't take as long as it used to. It's a little paradox there. Okay, so these key elements work together, and they are introduced because of a practitioner's lifestyle and their relationship with the spirits. This path and the ability to help people with it is effective because of a practitioner's lifestyle and relationship with the spirits. I am ready to take questions in a minute. I know this is a lot of information, but if you know me, you know I like to power pack. I don't come on here just to chat. I really want to give you information. A lot of times people will ask, can anyone become a shaman? And the very short answer, which is probably not a popular one, is no. Not everyone can become a shaman. Not everyone is supposed to. And to be quite frank with you, not very many people would want to walk through the fire that's required in traditional cultures in order to be a shaman. But can people walk with shamanic ways to better their quality of life and their connection to all that is? Absolutely. That is something that anybody can do. And these times that we're in right now are made for us to be learning these practices. Some people are teaching them real quick and dirty, and some people are teaching them with more depth and time that they're putting in. Either way, these practices need to be shared because we need them. And I was told many, many years ago by the spirits that we're going to need this practice. And Spirit's been training me up, as Spirit's been training quite a few other people up to be able to hold a solid place to bring these practices through in a way that honors First Nations people and also honors an individual's relationship with Spirit. And so if you're here with me in this group or you're in one of my other groups, you are benefiting from 25 years of experience. That's what I bring here, 25 years. When I lead a meditation, there's 25 years of experience in ceremony and connecting that comes through. And so if you are interested in learning more about these practices and bringing them into your own life, you totally need to join us in the Path to Power community. It's where I share tools and practices to restore power and get you connected with your own spirit helpers. I'll drop a link below because I've got a special going on for the community right now. And I'm going to look over here and see if there's any questions. All right, so I accomplished my mission, and I did it in a short period of time, I think. This was all of this Healers and Healing. I shared the key elements of shamanic healing, which are related to the elements of shamanic practice. And if you're just catching us now, go ahead and go back to the beginning after this live is over and check it out, because it's full of information in here. It's hard for me to just give you a little bit of information. All right, so thank you so much for joining me. I'll drop a link for Path to Power if you want to learn more with me in the box here, and you can always tag me in a comment if you have a question about how to learn more. All right, I'll be back next week at noon, I think. Yeah, noon on Wednesday, Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for hopping in. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye for now.